Hi everybody, I'm Todd and I hope you're having a great week. Today I'm going to take a look at Slate's VSX headphones. I've had a lot of requests to review these, so let's check them out. Now if you watch my headphone reviews, you know I'm all about the sound and particularly what the performance is like with different types of program material, and this review isn't going to be any different. Now there are a lot of reviews that focus on the software from these headphones, and that's great if you want to emulate some different listening environments, but I think it still has to start with the performance of the headphones itself. So we're going to do some audio tests and see how things go. I encourage you to wear some good headphones for this review to get the best experience. Now taking a look at the frequency comparison here from the Sine sweep, we can see that the VSX headphones slightly underrepresented frequencies below 100 Hz and a boost in the kind of 4 to 5K range and a little bit of a dip after that. So I'd expect there's going to be some coloration in the sound. We'll check that out with music. Now looking at the comparisons here from the music files, we can see again that there is an underrepresentation in the frequencies below 100 Hz and also even between about 2 and 300 Hz here. We can definitely see that boost in the 4 to 5K range as well as a roll off in some of the upper frequencies. I could certainly hear the coloration in the sound myself. Looking at the linear analysis, we see a little more enhanced resolution, but it's really telling that story of the upper frequencies, which are particularly noticeable. Now looking at the frequency response comparison graphs, we can see that the VSX headphones tend to underrepresent frequencies below 100 Hz and slightly between 2 and 300 Hz. Then there's really a boost above 4 to 5K, and then again a slight underrepresentation beginning around 7K. So those are things we're going to hear versus the reference track, the coloration of the headphones. Certainly nothing excessive here, but just something to be aware of. Looking at the linear comparison, of course, we just get a little more resolution in the upper frequencies, really telling us the same thing here, that these headphones do have a sound profile. It's not excessively different from the original recording, but it is there. Now I've loaded up iZotope's audio lens so we can compare the original recording and the recording made through the VSX. So the purple region is going to be the original recording. The white line is going to be the dynamic or real-time playback of the recording made through the headphones.
What about the world we both believed in? What about the word that made it so? What about the world we both believed in? What about the word that made it so?
You show me beauty in life. You put me first all the time. No wonder I'm on a high when I'm with you, oh yeah. You show me beauty in life. You put me first all the time. No wonder I'm on a high when I'm with you, oh yeah.
Now, I found the VSX headphones actually did a really good job representing the male vocal, albeit a little bit brighter, a little more intelligibility than the original file. Looking at the linear analysis, again, we can see that boost in that sort of 4 to 5K range. That's where I believe that's coming from. But overall, again, very usable for male vocal. Now, I found female vocal to be a little more affected by these headphones than the male vocal, again, because of the fairly strong boost in that 4 to 5K range. The female vocal really is affected by that. Lower frequencies aren't really doing anything much here. And again, in the linear analysis, we can see again that boost in that range and also some missing information in some of the upper frequencies. And this is a sample of spoken words, so we can compare the sound of the recording directly versus the sound through the headphones. And this is a sample of spoken words, so we can compare the sound of the recording directly versus the sound through the headphones. Now, looking at the comparison for spoken word, we can see here there is that boost in the 4 to 5K range, little drop off above that, and slightly less response in the lower frequencies. But overall, in terms of the character of the reproduction of spoken word, I'm going to say it's pretty accurate with enhanced speech intelligibility. So if you're using this for regular listening, podcasts, that type of thing, they're going to do a really great job. Using them in a production application, you just need to be aware of that coloration, something you can EQ out, of course, but again, there is an influence on the sound. Linear representation just gives us more detail again in the upper frequencies, but really what you hear here is an enhancement of speech by the headphones. Now, I do believe the VSX headphones are targeted more at a production environment, certainly with the accompanying software, but for those that do want to use them for multi-purpose and gaming, let's check out some game audio recorded through them. I spent a number of hours gaming on these headphones to get a sense of what they'd be like for that application, and for me, they actually produced a reasonable environment. It felt spacious, yet there was some isolation, so I liked that about them. I could discern where sounds were coming from, and the environment again seemed reasonably spacious. Certainly not on the level of open back headphones, but I think they do a decent job for gaming if you want to use them for that purpose. Now, when it comes to soundstage and stereo imaging, I'm going to say these headphones do a reasonable job. They certainly don't perform like the top-end open-back designs that are available, but in a closed-back design for production applications, they're certainly going to get the job done for you. Listening environment is fairly expansive for headphones, and imaging, I would say, is reasonably accurate from one side to the other. So overall, again, for what they're intended for, I think they do a good job. Now, we'll take a look at the build quality of these headphones. Of course, we're going to see a lot of plastic on here that helps keep the weight down, and also in this price range, I wouldn't expect to see any kind of exotic materials. But that said, overall, I think they're pretty well put together. The headphones swivel beyond 90 degrees, which is nice to see here. Headband seems to have quite a bit of adjustment on it as well. Now, in terms of the length of extension, it's stepped, which is good, but it's not that much. So if you have a large head, you may find that there's some issues with them fitting. The ear cups are reasonable for getting around your ear too, so unless you have really large ears, they're probably going to be fairly comfortable that way. Now, in terms of the cable, it is 3.5 millimeter on both sides. It's not locking. Nothing really you're going to find here that's a problem to replace it if you needed to. I do like the design of this cable. It is pretty anti-kink. Straight cable only included, and it's not overly long, so just something to be aware of there. You're also going to get a 1/4-inch adapter, plus you're going to get a hard shell case. It's going to keep everything together if you want to take them on the road with you. Again, these are probably more of a production idea, but nonetheless, good to have that here. So overall, I think these headphones are pretty well built, reasonable certainly for the price range they sit in. Now, those of you that watch my reviews know I don't sit here and read spec sheets to you, so if you want more information on that, check out the links in the description below. But I will draw your attention to a couple of things. The driver design on these headphones, Slate certainly has put some engineering into that. And also there's some analog circuitry that's built in, which I believe is to kind of even out the response of the headphones. And again, it's pretty decent after our audio tests here. Otherwise, pretty much what you'd expect from a headphone in this price range. So check out more details below if that's what you're looking for. Now that we've done a number of audio tests, I'll give you my final thoughts. I think for the intended purpose of these headphones, which is largely production, I think they do a pretty good job. There's nothing about these headphones that you could not learn and make good mixing decisions with. This is all aside from the software. There's going to be two camps. There are some of you that are going to be all about using software to model environments, and others are going to say, no, just give me the headphones, let me learn what they sound like so I can make the right decisions with them. And both are valid. My review, again, is more about the sound. Now, in terms of general listening, there's a little bit of a boost in speech intelligibility. That's not bad for listening to podcasts or audiobooks, so it's going to work well there. And certainly if you want to use them for general listening for music, there's nothing, no frequency responses that are really offensive in them, so nothing's going to hurt your ears or otherwise listening. But if you like a lot of bass, that's not really going to be something you find here. So maybe you need another choice for that. Overall, I'm going to say they do a pretty good job though, and I would recommend them in this price range, particularly if you're going to make use of some of the software. That's something that's going to be tailored to these headphones and may be a good choice. Let me know in the description below if you want me to take a look at software modeling for headphones. As you know, there's a lot of options available for that, and I can do a roundup on those. If you're interested, again, let me know in the comments. Now, if you're looking for other headphone options, check out one of the videos on the screen. As always, I do appreciate you joining me, and I hope I'll see you next time.